Hey friends, how you doing? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm the TheTranspondster, and today I am in The Sims 4 building a speed build in Brindleton Bay. We are doing a museum wedding venue. It's going to be slotted as a museum, but honestly its main functionality for my personal gameplay is 100% going to be the wedding venue aspect, and I like this one because I've done a neat little twist to it in the fact that I've added like a honeymoon suite in the upstairs. So after your Sims have their wedding party, they don't even have to go on vacation. They can just go upstairs and do the deed and seal the deal, you know? Now, we haven't really panned over it too much yet because the camera is zipping around so quickly, but if you pay attention to the top right of the screen, you'll notice that there is a lighthouse off the lot itself, and that's kind of where I'm basing my inspo. Now, I'm not necessarily calling this a lighthouse, like to be part of it, you know, where the actual lighthouse keeper would stay, because it looks as though the actual lighthouse has one attached. So I feel like the story would have been that this is maybe the original home that the lighthouse keeper would have lived in, but they decided for functionality's sake to rebuild it and attach it to the actual lighthouse. And now this one has just become a museum, transformed into a wedding venue. Now it is 100% functional as a museum, although I did kind of cheat at the end by adding in some artwork that I just, you know, fillers to check the boxes in order to make it placeable as a museum lot type. But realistically speaking, I don't use museums like ever in The Sims 4, and if I do, I guess it would be to check the box of a lifetime aspiration that's like, visit a museum and do this, or, you know, whatever the chore is or the task is, whatever you want to phrase that as. So I know the floor plan doesn't entirely make sense for like a converted lighthouse. So really, I don't know what this building realistically would have been, but I am sticking with the OG lighthouse transformed background here. And so it's just going to be this big open space downstairs. That back section's like a little hallway through the archways there, and then there's just a couple bathrooms. I do believe I get bathrooms to where infants and toddlers can use them. I do try and do that in all of my community lot builds and applicable vacation rentals. I don't have anywhere for toddlers or infants to sleep here because the only bed on the lot is going to be the one in that so-called honeymoon suite. But I feel like honestly a lot of random Sims are going to be going up there to take a snooze, and it could be a little problematic in actual gameplay, but the idea and the concept is there. Downstairs, the one room that I do have tucked off to the side is like a kitchen, so if you forget to bring a wedding cake, don't worry, you can still bake one. That is something that I forget to bring to my Sims wedding, so that's why I mentioned that in particular. And then at the wedding arch, I was toying with using tulle to place it off the grid a little bit to make the background aesthetic with the lighthouse, but I think tucking it in this corner does a good enough job. I do play around with the camera angle a few times before deciding where exactly to put it, because I wanted to make sure that if you're taking some picturesque photos of your actual wedding happening, that you would want that background landscape. And obviously I gotta take that into consideration when I'm planning out the wedding venue. I keep it pretty simple in terms of decorations. Any floral arrangements that I put, I just made them white. Obviously, in ground stuff, I added a little color too, but I still kept it fairly basic. I also wanted to hide the grid line from like when you're in build mode. I know you can get rid of the actual grid, but the lot line stays in place, so I just kind of put some bushes around it to fill it in and give your wedding photos a little bit of a nicer background, in my opinion. It also makes it more aesthetic for when I'm taking the photos and I'm in build mode and I do have that white line. I know I can leave build mode and bring Sims here and take them in live mode, but I don't know. Sometimes the effort isn't there on my end. But one thing's for sure is that the honesty is, and yeah, I'll just be upfront with you that I'm lazy and I don't want to do that all the time. Sometimes I do, and I have definitely gone and, you know, acted out my Sims in their homes and stuff, but it is not an all the time occurrence. I actually have 2 homes built ready to be stop motion, and I just, wow, stop motions are a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of willpower to sit down and dedicate that. Not that I don't put effort into my videos in general. This sounds absolutely terrible, but hopefully you get what I mean in that, like, sometimes when you're at the end of the day, Sims, you just want to use it to escape and not make it all about creating content. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm trying to rush through that so I can get my actual gameplay in. So sorry guys, I'll maybe consider not cutting corners here and there in the future. But yes, back to this build, keeping the bathrooms pretty basic and straightforward across all 3. I do put in the change table in one of them. Oh, maybe I do. No, I do 2, and then the potty in 1. So, like I said, simple. We don't even have like a little seating area outside the washrooms. Really, who wants to sit there anyways? I do have like a ballroom kind of set up with a dance floor and some tables so that you can have your formal sit-down wedding dinner if that so happens. But you could also just leave after doing the actual ceremony and not have the big party after, and no family drama or lingering around way too late into the night, because let's be real, my bedtime's early. I don't want to party that late. I am a quote-unquote party pooper these days. Since I became like a real grown-up, I'd say I'm just ready for bed any time of day, so keeping me up late is mission impossible, and keeping me up late and in a good mood and not grumpy that I'm up late, we'll see. No, I can be tolerable in the late hours, but preferably early mornings for me, which I feel like is probably polar opposite for a lot of Sims people, which it used to be for me before I guess my job kind of whipped me into shape. But like, I'd be awake at 6 a.m. because I hadn't gone to bed yet, and now I'm like awake at 6 a.m. and already living my day. Like, we've had a meal and stuff. Like, yeah, I'm awake way too early for most people, I think. But I kind of like it that way, because if I wake up before the rest of the people in my house, then that's when I get all my solo time. In the late hours, other people are there. It's not quite the same. There's no warm coffee to sip on and in cozy pajamas and still kind of that half asleep grogginess, you know, you don't get that in the late hours. You get the, oh, I'm so tired, exhaustion, and do I even have the energy to do anything that I want to do right now? So yeah, I much prefer the first of those two options. But you can let me know in the comments if you're more a morning person or a night person, or maybe you're both, because I've definitely considered myself both a morning and a night owl. Morning owl. I guess it would be a morning bird, not an owl at that point. Although an owl is still a bird. It was kind of hard when I was going to pick like an actual wedding vibe, just because I felt like, you know, when someone books a place for a wedding, they still have some element of their own touch to the wedding decor and stuff. Like, I feel like you would get to set up your own decorations, and so I didn't want to go too crazy with the decor here, but I also didn't want it to feel so lackluster that you're like, oh, this is kind of like a boring, bland wedding, nothing's going on here. So I did have to kind of commit to a vibe, and obviously it's got more of a farmhouse look to it. I think it's kind of like a refurbished farmhouse look, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like the modesty of it, I guess you could say. It's got a lot of muted blue tones in here, and maybe like beige to balance it out a little bit, or tan. I put the buffet tucked off in the corner, and I picked the globe to be the bar. I do end up placing it kind of behind the DJ booth, out of the way. I felt like it was obstructing the path to the kitchen over in the buffet corner, but I feel like it's less obnoxious than the actual bars, and after getting seating in, I didn't really have space for a bar and a DJ booth, especially if I wanted the upstairs to be more focused on like the separate tucked away honeymoon quarters sort of thing. Although I do have like a little seating area with some sofas upstairs. I do put a high chair in with the tables so that if your sim brings an infant or a toddler, they can sit down and eat at the wedding like the other guests. And there is a swing set there. If there's some children here, they can go keep themselves occupied. I do also put a monkey bar set down the other side of the build, like the left side if you're looking at it from the front, so you can't see it at all from the wedding itself that's happening outside. The swing set I feel like you would see in some angles of some pictures, but it's definitely more aesthetic. Not that the romantic garden monkey bar set isn't aesthetic. I feel like it's definitely the nicest monkey bar set that we have in the game, but I don't know, it's a little clunkier, and at least like the adult sims I feel like would linger over to that swing set late into the hours of a wedding reception when the drinks are a little heavy hitting at that point, you know. Upstairs, I do put a little more attention than usual into the ensuite bathroom for this honeymoon suite, just because I wanted it to have that really nice farmhouse aesthetic. It was the vibe we went with downstairs, so I was like, let's finish it through, and then at least like the wedding attendees and, you know, the guest of honor are getting the atmosphere that suits them. You know, they're picking this place because this is the kind of place that they want to have a wedding at, not because they're like, oh, this is our only option. Because if you've watched my channel long enough, you would know that I have done a wedding venue, or two actually. I've got like a very nature-esque one in I want to say I put it in Henford on Bagley, but I'm second guessing that one a little bit. But it's like a greenhouse wedding ordeal. And then I have another one, I believe I called it the Southern Orchard Estates. It's in Willow Creek, and it's like your country club, typical hoity-toity, really classy, elegant wedding venue. Why am I having such a hard time saying wedding venue in this video? Oh my goodness. But yeah, so we've got a couple different styles across the board, and I like that. I'm gonna have a beach wedding venue down the road someday, so if wedding venues are your thing, you should subscribe, because this isn't gonna be the last one I build, and it's not the first one I've done, so I'll make sure I have one of those other wedding venues linked at the end of this build. But yeah, you should definitely hang around if that's something you're into, because let's be real, I've got lots and lots more to build, and we're here for the long haul. I was totally lost when it came to this bedroom, I'll have to admit. Blue isn't necessarily the color tone that I have in mind when I'm thinking honeymoon suite, but it's kind of the vibe throughout the rest of the house, and you know, the floor and the wall had blue going through it, so I really had to commit here. And I do have to admit, I love how this turned out. It does have a little bit of a coastal feel to it, but honestly, if we're thinking Cape Cod still when we're in Brindleton Bay, because we're thinking about our realistic save file that we're working on, still in the back of our minds when we're doing all these speed builds here. But it definitely checks that box, and I feel like coastal is okay to blend in with this farmhouse a little bit, because realistically speaking, this isn't a farmhouse, and I feel like those wood tones and neutral also tones just fit that feel. And this lot did turn out really well. As lost as I was going into it, I'm so happy with how it turned out in the grand scheme of things. And landscaping wasn't as intense as I expected it to be. Not that I expected a lot out of this landscaping. It's not my favorite thing to do in terms of any build, and so when I know that it's a lot that people are like going to want to take pictures at, because your Sims are having a big monumentous moment here, and yeah, I'm just like, it's gotta look good for those photos, and the pressure's just on at a different level, you know? Yeah, this is definitely a me thing. And I decide that upstairs, because a photo booth, again, was a little bit of an obnoxious item, I decided to put the tripod from the Moschino stuff pack and threw a camera on top, so that your Sims can go upstairs and have like a little photo shoot, only a few of them, but like to capture the moment of the after party, a more casual photo shoot session. I do have drink trays kind of all over this lot. Anywhere there's like a little miscellaneous seating area, basically, I do get a teapot in. And I also included like this little romantic blanket that comes with the Lovestruck pack, so your cute couple, or maybe one that happens to be attending the wedding, a new love, can mosey on over and have a cute little romantic moment on the blanket outside watching the stars, or, you know, rolling around in it a little bit, or whatever they happen to be getting up to in, again, those late hours of a wedding. Lots of things could go down. Now, this definitely wouldn't be a wedding that you would want to wear high heels to, at least really pointy heels, because the terrain is all grass when you're outside at the outdoor portion of it. At least indoors it doesn't matter too much. It's just the soreness of your feet that you have to take into consideration. But I do have like this little seating area outside too, so hypothetically your Sims could choose to do their dining outside for their wedding event, but they would most likely do it indoors because that's where like the buffet would be set up and all of that. So outside under that little pergola is just a little bonus seating area. I do actually get in a fire pit as well around the back in between the swing set and the actual wedding area itself. That's what we're working on now. And I don't really do any pathways. I kind of toy with the idea of using like the stone debug item to build my own little path under the seating area that I put under the pergola. But it just is so time consuming that I have to admit, I took the lazy way out and just continued the sand that was kind of on the exterior of the lot, bleeding into it a little bit, and I rolled with that and dragged it through to sort of draw out the pathways. This is the point of which that I'm just adding in the couple things that I needed to flesh out this museum portion of the build, because I wanted to slot it as that as opposed to a wedding venue. I just feel like having the different lot types is important when having a save file, so that's why I made a point to do that. There's that little pathway I mentioned, and we gave up real quick, and I was like, sand it is, let's go with this. So I'm just gonna wrap up this video as I wrap up doing the terrain paint, and thank you all so much for being here. I say it in every video, but it truly blows my mind that anybody wants to listen to me talk for a whole 20 minutes. Oh my goodness, thank you. Yeah, it's just a little touching, and hopefully you're willing to show your support a little further and leave a comment behind. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and most importantly, have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye guys.